So today's the day we're taking the van down to get the axle flip, and I'm going to give you a quick just once around just to give you an idea, so we've got a comparison view once we get the trailer back. He is running nice and flat, you can see that there. With this as is, the lowest point, which is pretty much the drawbar anyway, because that's the bottom of the frame, is around about 11 inches. So that's around about the height that we've got when we go out. Here is the clearance that we've got off that wheel. So I think that wheel actually sits up a little bit into the guard. So there's our suspension. And hopefully you can see just on the inside there is a little shock absorber down the bottom there. There's 3 springs, and hopefully you can see the axle is actually sitting over the top of the springs. So we'll see how much height improvement we get there, just in relation to our lowest point, which is pretty much in line with the frame underneath. You can see just there is going to be this point here on the bottom of the door. So that was the point that I measured at 11 inches. And again, that's the same height as the frame, so even if that wasn't there, the frame itself sits that low anyway. That's the clearance we've got coming out the driveway. Depending on, now the problem is I can't lift that front up too much, because then the back drags as we come out. You can see that sitting nice and high at the moment. As you can see how much clearance we've got there. If the load level is on, they would attach there and they would drag. You can see where it's marked the driveway, just there somewhere, there. You can see how close that hitch gets as well. We are coming out at an angle just to minimise that. And if I were to come out this way at more of an angle, the bottom of that door really catches just this step or the entryway here. I guess you can see that in relation to there. So this is why we're getting the lift done today, or the axle flip. I'm really keen to see how this works out. And we're back. It is the day of the lift, and it's been done. It took them a couple of days, but that's not an issue. I'd basically advised them that they could have a couple of days or take it as long as they needed, because I didn't need it back straight away. So let's get, I guess, straight to the point, which was the lift. And we'll just head down the side now and give you a quick look. I will put some comparisons up. As per the previous video, you would have noted that that top of that wheel was just under that arch, and now we've probably got at least 3 inches. Quite a bit of difference in what we had before. Now that's all good from that perspective. What we really need to do is get the increase here, as per the clip earlier, which is when I was going out. Now the challenge is going to be how high I need to get this. I don't know whether I need to go quite in line with the actual hitch itself. So what we need to do is figure out which height we need this, make some adjustments. I may need to flip this up the other way. You can see here they have changed to where, looks like they've changed a little bit where the mount for this used to go. Looks like they've maintained the angle, so that seems okay. I must admit I can't remember exactly where that shock was mounted originally. Hopefully you'll be able to see that in the video. Certainly going to make it a lot easier to get under here and tidy things up, and I want to give this a bit of a coating underneath here as well. All pretty good. I'm just having a look. It doesn't look like they've had to adjust the brake lines, all the cabling going to the electric brakes. I'm going to get in here and clean those up, so if at any point you want to see how to do that, we'll do that. Now I did have a discussion with them about these shocks, because these were, they're looking pretty average. Not sure if you can get a good view of those, but they are looking pretty average, and I'm guessing they're original equipment. But they did test those for me. They said they had lots of pressure still in them, and they were fine, so they threw those back on. Just looking at it now, that does look like it's a lot shorter of stroke, so I'm hoping that's not going to bottom out when we hit a bump or something. But just for the first 10 minutes or something driving at home, now maybe because I've got it nose down at this point and there's no real load in it because I emptied the Caravan out, Didn't have any water in it, took a lot of the stuff out of the fridge, etc, etc. So it's probably as light as it's going to be. It was very bouncy. I noticed it felt like every time I hit a bump, the Caravan was wanting to bounce quite a bit. So I imagine once we load this up a little bit and we take it for another drive, that should sort that out. So I'm going to say that's reasonably close to flat. If anything, it is ever so slightly nose up. And I think you can see that there. So I'm going to give this a shot, just drive it out the driveway, and we can do a comparison. But my main concern now is just this point here, but obviously we can cut that off if we need to. Not worry about these chains touching down there. So that is about at our worst point there. You can see the wheels of the truck come down into the gutter. So there's a bit of a drop there. And from that point on, it pretty much goes upwards. And obviously the Caravan stops coming down. These were some of the items that were touching down. It was a little bit longer, but we're still touching down. And our load level, as if we had those on, they hang down like a little hook. And they were catching all here as well. So you can see that's probably the 4 inches we've been talking about for where these have been touching down here versus where it's at now. As far as conclusions go, one thing you can expect to do if you do a lift, axle flip, whatever you want to call it, you're going to be doing a lot more of this. One other thing I've heard is that the brakes, handbrake, isn't as effective and requires adjustment of the cable. Well, it's loose as it is. I don't remember how loose it was in the past. Let's flip her over and put our foot up there, give her a nice tighten. Now, straight away I can tell you that that's a lot tighter than it used to be in the past. So whether they've made adjustments to this or this is because of the lift, you would expect it to get tighter because of the lift, because it's going to be running through the things, it's going to be further away, more tension. But I used to be able to get it down to about this one here. That's why you saw me put my foot up here, because it wasn't usually very effective, and I don't think most handbrakes on Caravans are. So from what I've read, this one certainly wasn't. So I was expecting to have to pull, grab on this, put a foot up, pull on it, and get it back to the same position. And I wanted to give it an equal amount of tension just then. And we've only gone 3 points back, and there is a lot of I can move them, but there is a lot of tension on those. So hopefully that's improved our handbrake situation. We'll know that later on. It's not something I want to test right now down my driveway, pointing at the neighbour's house. Clearance wise, we've certainly got roughly over 3 inches with this running relatively level, which I think that'll be the position I'll be running in. So when I pull the van up to be relatively flat, I guess to left to right, it was almost putting this drawbar down on the ground. To a point where I was having a lot of difficulty. I was having to dig out a little bit of a hole to get the jockey wheel down. Keeping that in mind, what I also need to pay attention to is I am having to wind this down quite a lot. So it is going to a reasonable extension before it actually pops off the wheel here, off the ball here. So what I might actually do, this is just a small 6-inch standard, I guess, jockey wheel. What I might actually do is look at swapping that over for an 8-inch or maybe even possibly a heavier duty 10. That'll take up some of that distance. So I must admit, I don't like this being so long at this stage. I don't like it being close to full extension when it's all the way up. I don't think they're as stable, and I'd like to avoid that if I can. I will have to check winding these down and to see whether the stabiliser still touch down. So the good news is our rear ones seem happy enough. But I think again we are riding nose up ever so slightly, so I think we're going to need a block of wood for that. And the front ones, as you can probably see, not touching, so we'll have to again just get some blocks of wood for that, which I carry around. Caravan has a piece of 4x2, and that's going to be enough for that to touch down. I'm probably getting inside now. Here is a lot higher. Now I'm only 5'4", but that's not going to be an issue. If I lift the foot up, I'm now square here, so yeah, 90 degrees. or parallel to the ground, let's say. But that's still an easy step up. So and I suppose the main test is if my little buddy can get up. Come and test this for me, Titan. Can you get in there? Up you go. I think you can. Is that alright? Well, it's approved. Alright, thank you very much. Come on, Bozo. Come on. And no problems getting down. So, little buddy Titan has no issues getting in or out. I have no issues getting in or out. We are golden. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you've got any questions, keep in mind that this has only just happened today. This is an initial look, and I haven't had a chance to take it for too much of a drive. It's probably not going to happen for a few weeks, but I will give a full report once I have done that. My initial feel is that it's a lot more bouncy. So I could hear it jumping around on the ball, so I have to make sure that's tightened up, keep the chains tightened up for the first few weeks, because there seemed to be a lot of movement there. Enough to raise concern and make me pay attention, but everything else I think is all positives, and we'll see how she goes. Not expecting it to shake itself apart, but it was enough movement to make me feel that it might be uncomfortable paying attention to that during a drive. So we'll see how we go. Alright, thanks guys, we'll catch you on the next one.